Welcome to Data Unplugged, recorded in Chicago, Cincinnati, and New York. Hear from industry leaders on the future of data and AI. Your update starts now.
So Terry Kim, formerly of American Express and New York Life. So in the past few years or the past decade or so, I helped kind of build up a data infrastructure with new capabilities and functions at New York Life as leading the data strategy, enablement, and governance team. The last few years, I shifted over into the product space, so led a team of product managers for both data and AI. At least for me personally, and I think for a lot of companies, even the very discipline of this notion of product, especially in the AI and data space, is new. I think you've seen that in the software space and in the engineering space, but specifically in the data and AI space, I feel like it's been pretty new. So for us, it really was kind of this journey of not kind of trying to understand what the discipline was. So we worked with Silicon Valley Group to understand what some of the best practices were. In the early days, were kind of just implementing some product management best practices, which is basics of agile road mapping. And then a couple of kind of operational changes that we tried to implement. So we talked about this earlier. It's like, I used to call this concept of nimble teams, or these smaller product squads that are more dedicated to specific products and really focused on that execution. The idea of like bringing together a product community that keeps people across the company, like whether it's business, whether it's tech leaders, like really aware of kind of what the capabilities and data are, and kind of what the art of the possible is, as well as just let people kind of show off what they've been doing in each space. Trying to set up kind of a culture of more innovation. Like one thing that we tried to set up was a sandbox where we can test out these new tools that seemingly come out every week now, and trying to keep up, like work with safe synthetic data in a corporate environment where you could test POCs. And then a lot of this fun stuff for me, like it really has been more in the actual build of data products and AI products. So data product that helped recently launch was an operational customer 360, which really made a difference because it was tied to specific use cases that the business could see. So rather than being just having these questions about what is a data product, like how is that different from just a data store, or they could see the operational, like how it would power specific applications. And then some of the AI products that we've launched, it's in its focus of trying to create more enterprise-wide AI products that are reusable, they're scalable, they're relatively easy to implement, rather than having these siloed models that across company, which has historically been the case. A product and kind of a business value perspective. So like to me, a good product manager or a good product team, like one is always going to have that business value in mind, not just what can we build that people will come to, it's just what's the business problem that we're trying to solve, who are the end users, who are the different user personas that are going to be involved with this. Like a data product manager specifically, I think is going to always have that data governance mindset to it, and ensuring that we have a robust data governance wrapper around any product that launches. I think a good product manager, like we talked about this in the conference, like can speak 3 languages. They can speak business, they can speak analytics, they can speak tech, and even within business, they can speak the different dialects, because you have some business users who are kind of well versed in the most emerging technologies, while others maybe not so much. Like kind of that discipline around the road mapping, the planning, because ultimately the product manager, I think in an effective product team, is ultimately responsible for the end-to-end delivery of the product. Like that comes straight from that Marty Kagan book as well. You play a lot of different roles. So sometimes it's kind of rolling up your sleeves, understanding what the different technologies could be, working with the engineering teams on kind of what the art of the possible is, really trying to iterate and understand with the business, like as the product is being built, like to writing business requirements documents, product requirements documents, having that clear articulation of what success is going to look like, how is the business going to use this product, what's a minimally valuable product look like, just what are the KPIs. I think there's so many components to kind of like being a good product manager. A lot of times, just some of the expectations are unrealistic, especially when you're working with a really big company. With like a company that I worked with, they had legacy systems that are almost 5 decades old, mainframes and stuff. So you kind of underestimate, especially when a new person comes into the role, kind of underestimates what those data foundations look like and what they need to be. I think a lot of companies are in this kind of this phase of FOMO with AI, where they're like, there's all this, we should be doing something, we don't know what that is, and then kind of jump into things without having proper data foundations. Like if you don't have good data feeding your models or your tools, you shouldn't question when the results aren't quite what you're looking for. Kind of that whole change management aspect to it is usually kind of highly underestimated. It's like a lot of these companies, the data, the analytics, the AI functions, most of them are federated. Some are completely distributed. So they all have their own teams. They all have their own kind of ways of working, and they're comfortable in that ways of working. So for someone to come in with a more centralized view that kind of questions the way that you worked before, there's a lot of kind of massaging and change management that needs to happen. I think just in general, I think just data and tech people aren't good at communicating kind of wins. It's more, I'd say the same thing. Like you'll be 6 months into a project, you'll have had these great releases and you just kind of forget to tell people about it. So like having a good change management team to kind of celebrate those incremental wins, not wait for the big bang, and then iterate as you build out rather than kind of waiting for the end. There's so many reasons why these projects fail. Yep. And the adoption. I think adoption is the most key. Is the key metric too. I feel like I learned early on in my career at New York Life that we had this concept of Agent 360. We brought in consultants, like built a prototype. It was beautiful. Everyone seemed to love it, and it went nowhere. And it's just like not kind of understanding who the end user was, who would actually use it, and getting that buy-in for that use beforehand was such a critical mistake. It's something I've never made again in my career. It depends on the model, it depends on the tool that you're using. I think a lot of data scientists would feel like you're kind of infringing on their turf if you're getting into that space. I do feel like a product manager is going to want to know enough of the technical details as well as the business details, the analytical details to get to that level. So I think there's a different perspective that they can provide to this, making that agreement amongst your squad or amongst that execution team needs to be agreed on beforehand, because that's always tough when people feel like their territory is being a little infringed on or toes are being stepped on. So it gets like, it's really blurry. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to speak. Yeah, it's really blurry.
To say this.
Yeah. I'd say pretty important. I don't know if it'd be most important, just because in this shift to agentic, I think being able to architect and design agentic AI flows, I think that's going to be a really, really, really important role. The importance of setting up proper AI governance frameworks and people who have experience in that space, I think those are really, really high in demand. So we just came out of this kind of how's the role of the CDO evolved and kind of what's the future of the CDO role look like. I feel like title might change, or at least the functions within that might change, in that it might be more around kind of AI enablement and adoption, right? Those, like, I don't know, the chief of AI adoption or chief of AI enablement, like chief of AI risk. Yeah, chief of AI risk, like chief of AI trust. I think that's where we see the natural evolution so I think AI product managers are one component of that to help the actual execution of these products that will make it real for organizations. But it's hard to say that it's the most important. I wish I could say it's the most important